This is perfectly fine. We'll listen to Sonic Colors music while we do this. All right. So, I have a question for everybody who is here in the chat, especially those who just came over from Demon Mama stream. How many of you are familiar with Geeks and Gamers? I'm sure at least one of you have seen a video of theirs, at least at some point, either through me or from their channel themselves or from Vosh or Xanderhall. Anyone. Okay. So, Geeks and Gamers has made a video talking about the Loki ratings drop, and apparently it's titled They Never Learn. I have not watched the episode itself yet. In fact, actually, this video was sent to me by chat earlier in the stream, and I've gone ahead and looked up some data points that I think are going to be relevant for this episode. Again, I have not watched the episode itself. These are just the data points that I think are going to be pulled up. So, let's see if I get those predictions correct. But before that, let's go ahead and go straight to the fan art section. So, first of all, we have a Neko Suris fan art, as they all are these days, because I accepted chaos and now we're here. This one is from Nachi Bree. They said that their name is pronounced with a hard C-H-O, Naki. Naki Bree. I literally mispronounced it at first because I am dumb. We have another one from Blue Feather, which is a Suris as a Jedi or a Sith. Honestly, it's with my favorite type of weapon as well. I've literally actually made a boffer version of this weapon to train with for sparring. It's fucking wonderful. I love it. Thank you very much for this one, Blue Feather. And Shade Wrecker Halo Obsession, thank you very much for making a God of Destruction Suris. I am a huge Dragon Ball fan, so like stuff like this just makes me super happy. It honestly really does. As always, thank you all so much for your fan art submissions. And let's go ahead and get right into the episode by Geeks and Gamers.
What's up, Geeks and Gamers? It's Jeremy coming to you with another video, and today we are talking about Loki because it's being reported that Loki is losing a massive amount of viewers. Now, these numbers are really hard to gauge because when you're dealing with streaming numbers, and I don't think Disney's ever going to give the true accurate numbers, there's a lot of speculation within this, but then when you see some of the things going on surrounding the show, and some of the social media reactions, it does seem like that there is a potential that viewership is declining pretty quickly. But again...
Okay, so at least he's being a little fair right now, pointing out that, you know, Disney doesn't show these numbers in full. This is one reason why it was hard for me to look up data for this specifically in preparation for this, thinking, like, what points he was going to bring up. So I already know that, yes, Disney does not show those true numbers. It's very hard to gauge them, but there are some metrics we can use as a pseudo substitute for these things, and that will come up here in a bit.
And we don't know that for sure. On the surface, this should be a very, very popular and successful show if done right, because Tom Hiddleston as Loki is a home run. It's a grand slam, and he does a great job in the role. Even if the writing is questionable, and even if there are some weird things going on with the stupid comments that the director said, you still have Tom Hiddleston in the role, and that should be enough to bring attention to the show, which it seems that's happened in the first episode.
Okay.
Record numbers, people tuned in a huge way. Loki becomes the most popular show faster than any other Marvel series. Loki is rising through the ranks of the MCUs like WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, so when we were looking at the numbers, Loki actually did eclipse Falcon and the Winter Soldier's first episode as far as its episode's popularity. So, like, this so far is true. Like, nothing untrue is being said yet.
To become Disney Plus' most popular Marvel show. And that doesn't surprise anyone because, again, Tom Hiddleston in this role is great. But now we move over to episode 3, and it says Loki viewership numbers reportedly tumbled over 160,000 between episodes 1 and 3.
Okay.
Now, did that happen? I don't know. Now, this doesn't take into account this because this happened after episode 3 premiered, but this was the director pushing full identity politics. And this is going to turn off a substantial amount of the audience because they don't care about your virtue signaling. They don't.
Okay, so we got to go ahead and stop. We got to go ahead and stop Jeremy right now. Let's take a look at the tweet. Let's read the tweet and let's see what's being said here. From Kate Herron, from the moment I joined Loki, it was very important to me and my goal to acknowledge that Loki was bisexual. It's a part of who he is and who I am too. I know this is a small step, but I'm happy and my heart is so full to say that this is now canon in the MCU. Okay, so let's maybe talk about Loki, the mythological figure, right now. Loki was not just bisexual. Loki was fucking omnisexual. What do I mean by that? Dude literally morphed himself into a horse so he could get fucked and get pregnant and have horse baby. If it existed, he was down to fuck it. That is true to form for Loki's original mythos. So the idea that it's virtue signaling to merely have him as bi, which is again a very toned down version of what's in the actual like original Loki mythos, I don't see that as virtue signaling. That's just acknowledging a part of a character that's always been there. Loki's been bi in the comics. He's been omni in the like original fucking lore. So here we are, having a bisexual Loki, which is just what you would fucking expect. There's nothing about this that is surprising. And if you want to say that it's virtue signaling, then you're saying that a creator mentioning why they wanted to do something specifically is automatically virtue signaling. By this type of argument, Kate Herron would never be able to say why Loki was bi, because any way that she tried to describe it would be some type of virtue signaling if this logic stayed consistent. Shark Fox Panda says, have you ever heard of tiny dog syndromes, when a tiny dog, Geeks and Gamers, pretends to be bigger by being loud? Oh dear.
Don't care about you trying to push your personal journey into this fictional character.
Okay, so Jeremy, I have to ask, just based on that comment alone, that one right there, are you an actual fucking idiot? No, I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious on this one. Are you a fucking moron? Every writer, every director, every storyboarder, every person who pours their heart into a piece of art, part of their personal journey is going to be exemplified in that art in one way, shape, or form. You can say, we don't care about your personal journey when somebody brings up that's one of the reasons why they wrote a character that they did, or the way that they did. But it is literally unavoidable. Your personal journey will show in the stories you write, whether they be fiction or nonfiction. This is a fact of life and a fact of how stories are made,
that everyone has come to know and love over the course of the MCU. And now suddenly you've got this Kate Herron woman, the director of Loki, now trying to push her own personal politics into the role.
Okay, so can we just acknowledge something? How is the sexuality politics? This has been a fucking thing for a while now, and I don't understand it. How is a person existing or even celebrating their sexuality, this just mere part of their identity, how is that politics? If you have a character who is heterosexual and they engage in a heterosexual relationship, that must necessarily be political by the same metrics that we would determine that them being bisexual is political. And yet that is not an argument that I believe Jeremy would accept. I identify as political sexual. Like, if you were the type of person who wanted to say that showing a bisexual character is a political statement, then you necessarily have to accept the converse of that. Showing a heterosexual character is a political statement. And neither of them should be. At all. Spectacular Snyderman in the chat, there are only two genders, Loki and political. You know what? You found it. Congratulations, Spectacular Snyderman. You have found the two genders. Loki and political.
absolutely ridiculous. I did see this from Games Radar, where it says Loki episode 3. Tom Hiddleston's playing second fiddle on his own show. Well, that's what we've seen time and time and time again.
What? I have a question. How is he even playing second fiddle on his own show? Because I've seen up to episode 3, and he's got just as much screen time as any other character, if not more. And even if he doesn't have as much screen time as other characters, that's not even a bad thing either. How many of you in chat loved Dragon Ball Z? Now, I want you to think of every story in Dragon Ball Z. I want you to consider for a moment how often the main character was shown. Now, I want you to consider the other characters in that show, and I want you to recognize that most of those shows, most of the episodes of Dragon Ball Z, are waiting for Goku stories. He dies in the Raditz saga, and the entire Saiyan saga is waiting for Goku to show up. Then everybody goes to Namek, and there's a whole season of them adventuring on Namek while they engage in another waiting for Goku story because he's recovering in a hospital. And then there's another waiting for Goku story on the back end of the Android arc. And then there's another waiting for Goku story during the Cell arc while he's in the hyperbolic time chamber, and they play around with how long they can make a day last in Dragon Ball Z. And then there's another waiting for Goku story after that as you go into the Buu arc. Every single arc in Dragon Ball Z has a severe amount of time where you're just waiting on the main character to show up. And nobody's going to say that that's a horrible thing. DBZ's a good fucking show. There's nothing wrong with other characters having the spotlight in, quote, their own show.
It's the bait and switch. It's what we're worrying about with He-Man.
Wait. How is there a bait and switch? Episode 1 featured Loki for 90% of its fucking runtime. Episode 2 featured Loki for almost as much. Episode 3 featured Loki for, actually, no. Pretty much all of it. There's barely... I can't think of any scene in that show that does not also include Loki in episode 3. Except for the very beginning, where you see the Femme Loki, which I'm not going to spoil anything past that, but other Loki, you see them on screen for a little bit of time before Loki ends up engaging in a fight with them. So, to be fair, Goku wasn't necessarily the main character. Shark Fox Panda, Goku was definitely the main character of Dragon Ball Z. Akira Toriyama has confirmed that himself.
It's what we've seen with The Witcher. It's what we've seen with so many other films.
Wait. What was wrong with The Witcher? The Witcher had an A and B story. And it had just as much time focusing on Geralt as it did other characters. Having an A and B story isn't a bad thing. What the fuck was wrong with The Witcher? Is this that dumbass take where, like, oh my god, the B story had a female in it, everybody
and TV series of late, because they want to bring you in. They want to use the male character to try to draw people in, and then once they've established that they have that audience, then all of a sudden the bait and switch happens. It's what they do.
Ah, yes. The male character was the bait, and now we've bait and switched. Now we've catfished you. You thought it was male, but now it's actually a female character. Aha! We got you. What? Introducing that Loki was a girl is a plot twist, yes, but that's not a bait and switch. There's no bait and switch that happens there. That's just a plot twist, Jeremy. Do you not like plot twists in fiction? Do you not like that? You thought I was male, but it was I, Dio.
And then when the audience rejects it, then they just blame the audience for being toxic white males and intimidated by women. You know, the same song and dance that they always go through.
Okay, but seriously, Jeremy, I have a question. Why is it that every single time one of these shows ends up being good, you just bitch about women being in it? You just bitch about women being main characters. You bitch about bait and switches. You say this is the same tired song and dance, yet you're exemplifying why that song and dance happens in the first fucking place.
But I don't know how, this is all going to play out. I really don't know. It's interesting. I mean, these are still good numbers. Even with losing 160,000, you're still got good numbers.
Those are still good numbers, which we will show a little later.
Marvel Studios' most recent Disney Plus series, Loki, is seeing fans abandon the show in large numbers, with data company Samba TV reporting viewership has declined by over 100,000 viewers between the first and third episodes. Samba TV reported back on June 10th that the first episode of Loki was watched by 890,000 households on the day of its release. They noted even though it premiered on Wednesday, it brought in a higher premiere day viewership than the first episode of Falcon and the Winter Soldier and WandaVision. And there you see it right there. And again, that surprises no one.
Okay. Now, this drop-off, we have some data to look at real quick. This drop-off is basically what you would expect. Again, we don't have exact numbers because that is the nature of this beast until Disney decides to actually give us numbers. If Disney could stop being like Blizzard and hiding their World of Warcraft numbers, that would be great. Okay, let's look at the Google Trends results. This is based on how many times people are trying to search for different shit. So we know that WandaVision released in January 15th, 2021. So around January 10 to the 16th, we have this first spike in viewers in people looking up WandaVision. And then in the next week we have another little jump. But what happens when the third episode hits? There's drop off. Well, that's weird. Because WandaVision didn't have any particularly like yikesy messages to put forth as far as the writer concerned, right? I know there's some issues with like Wanda technically being very abusive to the people of the city that she was controlling and not really having an actual redemption arc, just kind of moving on, and that was kind of weird. But again, this is the drop-off that we saw with WandaVision. Now, Falcon and the Winter Soldier. When was this released? Falcon and the Winter Soldier was released in March 19th of 2021. So, when we look at March 19th, this March 14th through 20th time in 2021, we see the same spike in viewership that we expect because that's what we saw with WandaVision. And then there's a little bit of a difference here. It goes steadily down in episode 2 and 3 and then slowly rises back up. So, not quite the same, but still very on par. Your third episode is still going to have that drop-off. We expect this drop-off as the show goes in the middle part, and then we expect it to rise in the end. Now, what do we see with Loki if we're comparing the same Google Trend results? With Loki, it comes out, and we have our spike, and now here's our drop. This is all the data we've got right now. It's like, obviously, this graph will be a lot more complete in a month and a half when the show actually concludes, but we've got the same kind of drop-off we expect. Now, this would be worrying as far as, like, numbers of a show are concerned if this wasn't the exact trend that we noted with both WandaVision and with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And with both of those shows, those trends shot back up decently quickly. So I just want to have those numbers there. Show drop-off, which more than likely is a very accurate correlative with the amount of times that people are Google searching the show, the trending results. If we put all that data there, then what we're seeing here is not even news. This is expected. This is what these numbers do and have been doing for the past year.
Because Tom Hiddleston as Loki should pull the numbers. Then we get, in fact, later that day, they shared a comparison of premiere day viewership between the three shows. And it says, as you can see below, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, according to their data, was viewed by 759,000 households, while WandaVision was viewed by 655,000 households. And then it says, while the first episode of Loki was viewed by 890,000 households during its premiere, Samba TV recently released numbers for the show's third episode, noting that it was only viewed by 727,000 households. And there you go right there. Now, I don't know what that is. That's an 18% decline from the first episode and a total decline of 163,000 households.
Okay.
Not only is Samba TV showing a decline...
So, he can keep on reading off the fucking news article all he wants, but what we're seeing here is literally exactly what we expect. Again, we just went over the data. So he wants to make a big stink about this. Yeah, that's what he's doing. How's it going, Bartivism? How is it going? But no, this is the same shit that we expect. We've looked at the numbers. We see what the trend is going to do. So here's what's going to happen with Loki if the numbers stay true. We're probably going to see this drop off for one more episode, maybe. And then we're going to see a spike in Google Trend results. And as the show concludes, we're going to see that spike continue to go up.
And viewership for Loki, but as a YouTuber, Heel vs. Babyface points out, the series is also seeing a decline on Google Trends, and as has a fantastic...
And Google Trends, this is why we looked up the Google Trends data, because if the website that Jeremy is going to use for his information is going to cite Heel vs. Babyface, who is going to cite Google Trends, then we are going to use the same data source. We are going to go into the Google Trends data, and we're going to see if the numbers line up. And lo and behold, so far, they line up exactly as we would expect.
Fantastic video on that. Please go check that out. Subscribe to Heel vs. Babyface, my Friday Night Tights brother.
No. Maybe don't subscribe to Heel vs. Babyface. But you guys know the rules. Whenever the plugs happen, we have to plug our own shit instead. It's time to plug our own shit. Sorry, Jeremy. You tried to plug Heel, so now I get to plug DDLG Playground. If you need to get a very nice thing to go fuck yourself with, then please consider going to DDLG Playground. Use my coupon code Suris. You'll get 10% off of anything on the website, and that will help a shit ton with both you and me. Let's continue.
Who has recently been banned from Twitter, but you can go follow him over on his Instagram that he's trying to build up, so please on this. He states it on Google Trends. The first episode's pretty high. Second episode even stayed relatively high. And the projection on the third episode is that the show has just fallen off a cliff in interest. And as you can see right there, there's Loki, and it just, boom, just crashes and burns.
Okay, so, but, wait, hold on. These are the exact same numbers that we looked at. So when you look at Falcon and if you look at WandaVision here, we have the rise and we have the plummet. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it's harder to see here because of the comparison, but we can look at that data very specifically. We see the rise and we see the plummet. This is the exact thing we expect. Nothing in that graph is surprising. And nothing in that graph tells us that there's a sharp decline in interest in the show.
There's Loki, and it just, boom, just crashes and burns. Now, again, why is all this happening? I think that there's a lot of different factors that go into it, but I think people are just really...
The fact that this is the trend that you see with all of these shows on streaming services, the fact that we can compare the data between these shows and see that this is a normal trend, this is a fairly standard phenomenon that happens across shows despite whatever agenda you try to insert on them. I mean, Occam's razor is a wonderful tool. Maybe you should try using it. Sometimes the enemy is into the uber duber dang bad wokies. Sometimes the enemy is just data. Not lore. Data.
Tired of the nonsense. People tuned in because of Tom Hiddleston, and he will keep your audience in there. Even with the bad, writing, he's still giving a really solid performance because he's great in the role.
Where's the bad writing in the show? I haven't actually gotten the impression that Loki's a badly written show based on the 3 episodes I've seen so far. But I guess he's just pulling that one out of the butt too.
But as they're starting to see that the bait and switch is happening, you're starting to see the audience reject it. Now,
where's the bait and switch, though? Like, I don't know where the bait and switch is here. Another character is in the show. He has a supporting character / villain / frenemy. Again, I'm not going to spoil as much as I can because you need to go fucking see the show yourself. For all the yelling and screeching that someone like Jeremy does about the political agenda of the woke left, the go woke, go broke, this whole, like, rabbit hole of just, it's so bad because this and these are the reasons why the numbers are dropping. then when you see that these are just fucking normal-ass phenomenon, it really deflates their entire argument.
Again, we're going to see how this all plays out. You know, I have only watched the first episode of Loki. Didn't want to watch any more. Didn't look interesting to me. And I like him in the role, but I knew what direction they were going in.
Ah, so you didn't even see the show. You saw the first episode and were like, yeah, nope, bad writing. I know what's going to happen with this. I'm gone. So you're making this whole post based on a show that you haven't even watched. Jeremy, I feel like this is a bait and switch. I came to hear your rock solid, girthy, hard, throbbing opinions on Loki. And all I got was a meek, flaccid, limp, I've only seen the first episode. This is sad. Jeremy, this is pathetic. Watch the fucking show and make your judgment. Don't just read an article, quote heel versus babyface, and screech about the woke agenda when you had every ability to watch the show for yourself and come to your own conclusion. Aren't you guys the ones that scream about diversity of thought? About how people should form their own opinions? And yet here you are just parroting? Dude, come on.
And then, of course, with these comments right here, why in the world would I continue watching this show as a viewer? Why?
Dude, you can. Oh my God, you have the ability. Wait, hold on. So these comments came after episode 3 aired. These comments had nothing to do with you abandoning the show because you decided to not watch an episode 2. This is post hoc in the worst fucking sense. You're taking something that happened after episode 3 as your reason for not watching episode 2, but you made that decision prior to choosing not to watch episode 2. This is virtue signaling, Jeremy. That's all this is. This is just virtue signaling. You just... This isn't even just virtue signaling. Okay, so there's another thing that this is. Who here is familiar with the line of humor where you deliberately do not understand something and you make a concerted effort to not understand it and you make that like a defining part of your character? The whole like, what's the deal with airline food type of shit? Where like, yeah, it's a funny joke in the moment, but you could literally like learn and then solve that problem like very quickly. Jesus Christ. Jeremy, come on. You got 2 more minutes. Please impress me.
I will not watch the show when the director is preaching to me, just so she can then...
She's not preaching to you in the show, though. Wait, hold on. Aren't you the same type of person who would defend Gina Carano and say that, like, the shit that she says on Twitter has no bearing on the show itself? Has no bearing on The Mandalorian? Because if that's the case, if that's the type of argument that, and I believe you've made that on a previous episode, could be wrong, something cancel culture bad. If you're gonna be that kind of person, then what Kate Herron says, whether or not it's about the show, what does what she says on Twitter have to do with the show? You could watch the show in a vacuum without ever logging on to twitter.com. And that tweet would never live rent-free in your head.
Call me names when I reject her garbage,
Wait, hold on. Where does she call you a name here? Let's read the tweet again. From the moment I joined Loki Official, it was very important to me and my goal to acknowledge Loki was bisexual. It's a part of who he is and who I am too. I know this is a small step, but I'm happy, and my heart is so full. To say that this is now canon in the MCU. Wait, hold on, but where in this statement is she calling you a name? Now, I'm sure that maybe there's some other comment somewhere that you could bring up where she did call you a name, but the least you could do is bring that up. And I hope you do. Please do it. Please show me where Kate Herron called you a name.
Agenda-driven storytelling, because that's exactly what they do. That's the Lucasfilm model. That's the Disney model. Now it's going to be the MCU model. As they push nonsense, as they push their social justice warrior tactics, as soon as you reject it as an audience member, they will then attack you, because there's no way that they can be bad at what they're doing. There's no way they can be criticized. You can't criticize them for anything at all. They are above criticism from lowly peasants like me and you.
Okay, yeah, no, this little solidarity shtick doesn't work on people like me, Jeremy. Okay, so let's maybe take a step back and understand that there are valid criticisms and invalid criticisms. So, for instance, criticizing the merit of a show based on the contents of a tweet separate from the show is an invalid criticism. It is categorically separate from the medium you are trying to criticize and has nothing to do with it. Sure, it's the person who made the show, and sure, it has to do with their motivations for how they made it, but again, had you watched the show on its own without seeing this tweet would have no bearing, and its context would have no bearing on what you got from the show going forward. Zero. So show me the doll where wokeness hurt you. Now, I think maybe it's a good idea to realize that there are people who can take shit too far. There's going to be somebody in my comment section who's going to pull up some random comment from some random people on Twitter. And they're going to go, look, the wokies are attacking! And you know what? As somebody who's had people attack him before, not just people on the right, but also some people on the left, I do not want to name names of content creator shit at this time because there's no point. But as somebody who's been through that, you know what? I understand. But none of that has any bearing on this argument here.
The fans, that's how they view us, as lowly peasants, and we are not allowed to have an opinion unless our opinion is to praise them. And just...
No. So, again... directors like this can take criticism. But if the criticisms are things like, you bait and switched off with a female... Huh... I'm sorry, nobody needs to take that opinion seriously. There's zero reason to take that opinion with anything but the largest grain of salt. When you become a content creator of any variety, you learn, whether you learn how to do this correctly or whether you don't, you learn how to sift things between good faith criticism and bad faith criticism, and then also useful criticism and criticism that's largely useless. For instance, is somebody trying to ask me how to make a show they would prefer, or are they trying to get me to make a show that would be better for more audiences? If they're just trying to make a show that they would prefer more, that's probably not advice that I give a shit about. If they're trying to give advice that would make something appeal to more audiences, that would appeal to people on a broader spectrum as a content creator, that's probably something I'm a lot more interested in. Because there's no part of what I do with my content that is catered to any one of my viewers. I try to do stuff for everybody who's viewing, and also for myself. But you learn to sift these things into various categories. And what tends to happen, right? And I've had this happen in my comment section. Somebody will come in and tell me that I deserve to burn in hell. I'm going to get my ass ruptured by Satan one day in the deepest pits of his fiery bosom. And usually when that happens, I respond by making fun of the person. I go right into my comment section, and either I ignore it, or I decide, hey, I'm going to have fun with a bigot today. And then I'll get some spiel about, hey, I'm just trying to make things better. Hey, I'm just trying to tell you how to improve. A little, like, fun little pack pedal. As if telling me that my content would be significantly better by just merely becoming Christian, is criticism that I ever give a shit about. I've learned that stuff like that is in a category that I can pretty readily dismiss. When somebody says that they got bait and switched with a female character, that is probably criticism that can be very readily dismissed, because all kinds of storytelling have A and B stories. They have waiting for the main character stories. There are all kinds of stories revolving around a main character that can shelve that character for any amount of time if the story needs it. It's been a factor for storytelling for years, and there's nothing wrong with it.
Just consume the product. Don't question, just consume and wait for the next product. Just like Red Letter Media said. You can't question it. You can't criticize it. That's where we are with it. So
you can question and you can criticize these things. Again, I said it before. Categories of criticism. Valid constructive criticism is fine. Shrieking about being baited and switched with tits is probably going to be laughed at. He's quoting Red Letter Media. I have no idea what the fuck Red Letter Media is. No fucking idea. That's outside my wheelhouse.
So, again, have you been watching Loki? If you have, let me know.
Oh, is this just the end of his video?
I have not, and I'm probably going to get back to watching Superman and Lois, because after the first few episodes, I loved Superman and Lois, and I hear it's just continuing to go in a good direction. And that's not to say that I will not, I will not buy in completely, because it is Hollywood, it is the CW, so I'm pretty sure that they're going to pull something at some point. But
pull something at some... Jesus Christ, Are you so paranoid that every bit of media you ever consume is gonna, like, betray you? Imagine living like this. Imagine living the life where, like, every bit of media could possibly betray your insecurities and throw you out to dry, and it freaks you out, instead of just, like, accepting that surprise can happen when you're watching and reading shit, and just being okay with that. If you can't question or criticize it, how are you doing that right now? Good question. Apparently he's doing something he deemed impossible. Jesus Christ. Okay. That's about as far as we're going. I mean, he's only got like 30 seconds left of his video, and he's clearly done. Oh, Jesus. So, I guess we'll ask the same kind of questions. One, are you guys watching Loki right now, and what do you think of it? Let me know in the comment section below, or even in the chat. Though, please do me a giant favor. If you do not want to be spoiled for the stuff that's gone on in the show, the comment section may be a place where you need to drop your opinion and then not scroll through if you don't want to have spoilers happen to you. I have had the experience of having the entirety of The Force Awakens spoiled for me before I ever got to see it. The day before I went to see it in theaters, because I was working at a Quick Trip and I got a call that I thought was from a customer, and it was somebody screaming that Han Solo died and just shrieking spoilers at me. And apparently that's what made their day happy. So I've had that experience. It's not fun. Maybe don't have that experience yourself by jumping into the comment section if you have not already seen Loki. Fox of Fate 1, thank you for redeeming your points for an hara hara. You fucking monster. And as always, everyone, if you want to support the show, the best way to do so is by checking the description. There's various ways you can support the show there, and also hitting the like button, subscribing, following over on Twitch, and as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.